I've talked about this American David Eubank and his Free Burma Rangers. This is a bunch of white guys running around in the jungles of Myanmar with these armed militants who are fighting the central government of Myanmar. And these ethnic groups have been backed by the British and American governments for decades. They are armed by the West, and they are aided and equipped by the West. And these fake NGOs like Free Burma Rangers are one of the vectors they get these supplies and equipment through. Free Burma Rangers have also been videoed giving military training to these militants. And as a matter of fact, Free Burma Rangers themselves admit that they give military training to these militants. So they're aiding armed militants in the division and destruction of Myanmar, and David Eubank crosses back and forth over the Myanmar-Thai border while he's doing this, and he's based near Chiang Mai, and he's in regular contact with the US Consulate in Chiang Mai, which is what I want to show people today. So I was looking through Wikileaks, and I found a whole bunch of cables regarding David Eubank, Free Burma Rangers, and them regularly reporting to the US Consulate in Chiang Mai. So you have this one from all the way back in 2005. Thailand alleged use of chemical weapons along Thai border, which if you go through this whole cable, there was no chemical weapons. There's no evidence of that. It's just these fake US-backed NGOs making these claims like they always do. But then I just wanted to point out that the political office or political officer that is here in Thailand, the US Embassy and US Consulate in Chiang Mai, contacted David Eubank. So they're in contact and they're talking. They're in contact, and David Eubank reports to the US Embassy and US Consulate in Thailand. Here's another one. Snapshot of Northern Karen State provides little hope. So this is, again, the US Consulate in Chiang Mai talking with David Eubank as he returned to Chiang Mai from a 4-month trip to Burma's Northern Karen State, and he's reporting to the US Consulate the situation. And David and the US Consulate in Chiang Mai are complaining because the armed militants can't win against the central government. They are unable to divide and destroy the country as the US desires, and as David Eubank and the Free Burma Rangers desire. Here's another one from 2007. Free Burma Rangers providing humanitarian relief, not arming insurgents. And they're talking about the Free Burma Ranger contacts told officers from the consulate in Chiang Mai and the US Embassy in Rangoon that all about their activities and what they're doing in Myanmar, the fact that they're giving them equipment and radios to help coordinate in their armed fight against Myanmar's military, but they're saying they're not bringing in weapons. But that's just what they're saying. Whether that's true or not is another story. If you go through here, they're complaining. The US Consulate is complaining because they're saying David Eubank and the Free Burma Rangers are careless sometimes. They get caught on camera in military-style uniforms with armed militants, and it gives people the impression that the US is arming these militants, which they definitely are, but they're trying to say that this provides absolute evidence that they are, which they don't like. Free Burma Rangers now understands that it conducts its activities entirely independent of the US government, and that the US government will not come to Free Burma Rangers' aid in the event of some of its members are captured or otherwise directly attacked by the Burma army. Free Burma Rangers' work does not appear to conflict with US government interests in Burma, and the group remains a good source of information about the situation in Burma's conflict areas near the Thai-Burma border. Post intends to continue cultivating its relationship with Free Burma Ranger to augment Burma reporting. So this is the US Consulate in Chiang Mai, Thailand, admitting that it's got this relationship with the Free Burma Rangers. And of course, not coming to their aid is what you would do to any CIA asset. You would never admit that they were your asset. But obviously, they are an asset. They admit that they have this working relationship. He's an American citizen involved with armed militants on the other side of the border. Then there's this one. Karen groups say fighting won't reach refugee camp in Thailand. Again, this is sources with the Karen National Union and the Free Burma Rangers, an NGO that assists ethnic resistance groups in Burma with humanitarian operations, etc., etc. So again, this is another cable illustrating this relationship of David Eubank and the Free Burma Rangers reporting to the US Consulate in Chiang Mai. And then there's this one. Military detention of American citizen underscores shift in Thai policy toward Burma. So the Thai government knows about David Eubank and the Free Burma Rangers using Thai territory as a base of operations for going into Myanmar and aiding armed militants. And they actually detained him and his family because of this. This was in 2008. Now, of course, if you read through this, you're going to see that the US Consulate and the US Embassy's attitude toward this event is very negative, and I can guarantee you that they were putting pressure on the Thai government to leave David Eubank and the Free Burma Rangers alone and to allow them to continue operating. Obviously, this doesn't benefit Thailand at all to have this American using their territory, crossing over into Myanmar, and aiding armed militants who are destabilizing the country next door, preventing economic progress that Thailand would obviously benefit from, and creating this crisis along the Thai-Myanmar border that Thailand has to constantly deal with, including right now. They're dealing with exactly this. These militants that are fighting with the central government and causing this chaos that has refugees coming into Thailand right now, this is thanks to Free Burma Rangers and David Eubank. He's there helping them do this, encouraging them to fight the central government. And he's got the backing of the US Consulate in Chiang Mai and the US Embassy in Bangkok while doing this. He is their asset. He reports to them regularly. The US government has done nothing about this American citizen doing this in Thailand and in Myanmar. So I just thought I'd point that out. It's important for people to know that this is happening. The Thai government has to decide whether standing up to the US directly on this issue is worth the fallout that will follow and the pressure and the subversion the US government will target Thailand with. But if more Thai people understand this, if more people around the world understand this, expose this, and oppose this and speak out against this, it's going to become a lot more difficult for the US to continue doing this. And for David Eubank to pretend he's some white savior saving these poor brown people in the jungle and not just another American getting involved in another nation's internal political affairs and fueling chaos that is killing people. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. Think about subscribing. It helps the channel grow and it's free to do. Check the video description for these cables and go and search Wikileaks and see if you can find more and what else he might be doing hand in hand with the US Consulate in Chiang Mai, Thailand. There's also links on how you can help support my work so that I can continue doing videos like this. And as always, thank you for watching.